Are you aware of the UFC betting scandal?
No, sir, I'm not.
So the UFC, there didn't used to be rules in terms of like I could bet if I wanted to. Anybody could bet on fights. And what was going on was there was one trainer, and the allegations were that this trainer was involved in an online betting group, and he was letting these people in this online betting group know that one of the people that he was involved with was injured, and pretty significant injury. This guy winds up going out and fighting, loses in the first round, hurts his knee.
Yep.
Like throws a kick, blows his knee out. Apparently his knee was already hurt. Then they find out that this guy had been doing this for quite a while, or allegedly had been doing this for quite a while.
Yep.
And so then they pass this law now, or pass a rule with the UFC that no one can gamble. But I would imagine that fighting is probably the most difficult thing to get right in terms of to figure out a line. Did you do any gambling on boxing or MMA fights?
I haven't done any gambling on MMA fights. I had fighters in the past. I had 3 boxers, and in Las Vegas, and we trained at Johnny Taco's gym.
Okay,
Yeah,
great gym.
And one of my best friends in the world, Billy Baxter, he had fighters at the same time. He had better fighters than I did, record-wise. He had Roger Mayweather, who became
Black Mamba.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Jesse Reed was our trainer, and making prices on boxing, I didn't think was difficult at all. MMA, back to kind of what you're talking about there, again, well, the NFL, you're talking about transparency. I mean, if a player's injured, they have to report that the team does, the league does, so the public knows that. And, they have regular reporting requirements, and then, like before the NFL games, every Sunday, an hour and a half before the games, they have to come out with a final report. So, for whatever reason, in boxing, I know when I had fighters that there wasn't a requirement to disclose that.
Famously, Manny Pacquiao was injured going into the Floyd Mayweather fight.
Yes, that's what I'd heard.
And a lot of people were furious about that because a lot of money exchanged hands during that fight.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. So, again, not knowing as much as I would like to know before I make a comment on something, my only thinking is that you know a lot more about MMA fighting than I'll ever know. You and my friend Kevin Iole. Would it make any sense to make that a requirement to disclose injuries?
It would. Yeah, if you're dealing with gambling, it would. Unfortunately, though, then you would give your fighter, the other fighter, the opponent, a massive advantage. If you know this guy's got a knee injury, you're going to target that knee. If you know this guy's got a hand injury, you're going to know he can't punch. Yeah. There's certain things that would change every aspect of your strategy for a fight if you found out that a fighter was injured, especially if there's something that would prevent them from grappling. You would know they probably didn't do any grappling in camp, and so you'd go with a grappling-heavy strategy. Just grab a hold of him quickly. Really force him to wrestle. If you know he's got a blown-out knee and he can't really adjust on the feet or shoot for takedowns or even defend them well, you would definitely change things. And fighters hide injuries all the time. I mean, Dricus du Plessis, when he won against Robert Whittaker, he had a broken foot. And, he beat one of the top guys in the world with a broken foot. And that's kind of crazy that fighters do that, but that's the type of human being you're dealing with. And they can win that way. Like, it doesn't necessarily just because you know that a guy's injured doesn't mean that this guy's going to lose. There's certain guys that they find a way to win no matter what.
Right.
And I would imagine that the thing that would give me pause is scoring. Judges' scoring is horrible. It's the worst part of the sport. It's so bad. It's so bad that maybe 10 to 20% of fights, you'll have one card that's so off. You're like, what the fuck was that guy watching? It happens all the time where as commentators, we're just scratching our head. Like, how did he give it to the other guy? In what world? And I will go back and watch it again and see if I'm being biased. I'll watch it with the sound off. I'll just analyze all the positions and all the things that's happening and damage done and control the octagon and pushing the pace. I'll look at the volume. I'll look at the amount of strikes landed. And then I'll be like, how? How did that guy see it for the other person? It doesn't make any sense. And I always wonder if someone's on the take. I always wonder. Because I know that there was a case in Vegas where there was a woman who had given out very questionable decisions, like multiple questionable decisions. And the last one was so egregious that she kind of just went away. But I've always wondered if those people were on the take. Because Don King famously was a sneaky dude and did a lot of very, very under the radar shit that was probably not good. And I would think that if you have a fighter and that fighter's working for you, you would definitely have relationships at the very least with these judges. So they would be more inclined to score for you. Maybe you take them on a vacation. Maybe you take them to dinner. Maybe you do whatever you can do to get inside their good graces. And then if it's like, this guy or this guy, I'm going to go with this guy because I like Don King. Or, Bob Arum, he does me well. So I'm gonna lean towards that guy. That would be a real issue with me if I was gambling, particularly on boxing.
Back when I got in, I was betting on boxing before I had fighters. But after I had...
When you say you had fighters, what do you mean by that? Like,
I had 3 fighters.
So you had contracts with them? Like,
yeah.
And what is the contract involved?
Well, I was their manager.
Okay.
Yeah, and there were actually 3 young men I brought out from Louisville. And that was a connection. My wife and I are both from Kentucky originally. And Billy, I love boxing. I've always loved fighting. When, I used to go to all the fights at the Silver Slipper. I enjoyed it a lot. And,
so you're going to the smaller regional cards?
Oh yeah, Las Vegas. I mean, I remember at the Hacienda, which is the Mandalay Bay today. That's where the ESPN televised fights. That's where they began in Las Vegas. And I remember I had a fighter. He was a really good fighter. He'd won the National Golden Gloves like 5-6 times as an amateur fighter. He'd beat Aaron Pryor. His name was Terry Silver. And he was a lightweight and really, really, really good amateur. And I remember in order to get his first fight on television there, we had to agree with Bruce Trampler and Bob Arum, we had to agree to multiple contracts if he won the fight. That's the only way we could get him on the card.
That sounds like a Bob Arum move.
Yeah, but back to what you're talking about those days in the 80s, I mean, you had Duke Durham, who was Don King's guy in Las Vegas, and then, of course, you had Don, and you had Bruce Trampler that was Bob Arum's guy. And, I mean, you look at the various organizations that did the ratings of the fighters, and you look at some of the fighters, I mean, if they were signed with the right guy, I mean, they'd be ranked in the top 10, and a lot of them couldn't bust a grape. And then you'd have guys that weren't signed or hadn't agreed to those contracts, and they couldn't get rated, they couldn't get a fight. So you're right, there was a tremendous amount of politics in it, and that's the primary reason I got out of it. And but I still love boxing. I love fighting. I don't understand MMA as nearly as well as you do.
I can help you out.